And we are back for our favorite segment of the episode. It is Keep It, although the LA segment was one of my favorites in a while. So
we covered a lot of ground.
To.
Yeah, no, it's like we were driving through LA, frankly.
Yeah, well, speaking of driving.
Oh, God, yes.
I noticed my car had been vandalized in the parking lot, and I was like, who could have done that? Carrie Underwood?
Which reminds me of my Keep It. It's almost as if I briefed you about this ahead of time. My Keep It this week is to Carrie Underwood, the winner of the 4th season of American Idol. So sorry, Vonzel Solomon. She is performing at the Trump inauguration. Now, of course, it doesn't really blow my mind that Carrie Underwood might have been a Trump voter or at least cool with performing for Trump. Correct me if I'm wrong here. There is absolutely no reason for her to be performing at this ceremony. This is somebody who is now a panelist on American Idol, and I know she's not making Katy Perry money yet, but she's probably making $10 million for this season or whatever. So it's not like a money thing, and I do wonder if the Trumps are like throwing the money at Carrie Underwood. That's sort of on my mind. But she's literally performing alongside the Village People and Lee Greenwood. Carrie, can you hear that this sucks? Use your amazing pitch to hear that this is so awful. What is wrong with you? Also, I know this from having friends personally who are huge fans of Carrie Underwood. This is somebody with like a serious gay following too. Why would you jeopardize all of these, like, I'll say your most ardent fans for this one day where you're performing, I'm guessing, with 3 Doors Down, who are 3 doors down from hell?
Also, to go from having a song a few years ago called "Love Wins,"
oh God, and does it ever?
To team up with the bitch who wants love to lose.
She's performing America the Beautiful too, so it's like extra cringy. It's just so wretched. Again, it's like it makes me think liberals really needed to band together and vote for fucking Bo Bice. We really had a chance there, and we didn't take advantage.
It's not shocking, but I expected her to stay Carrie underhanded. I didn't think she'd be so overt about it. It reminds me of when I was doing research on the Bush administration for my book. I recalled that Destiny's Child performed at Bush's inauguration.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah.
Right. But I get it. He was the governor of their home state, and it was early on in their career. So what are you going to do? Turn this down?
Yeah, right. Yeah, so that would have been like 2000, literally.
Yeah, it was 2000. Okay. Yeah. They were surviving.
They hadn't even gotten to that part yet. They were not even jumping. They were MCI was cutting their phone bill or whatever at that time.
That's what the press conference in Independent Woman was about. When they said question, the reporters were like, "Now, why were you performing at that inauguration?"
Tell me what you think about this being a traitor.
I don't know. This saddens me especially because the bar Flaming Saddles in Hell's Kitchen, which I love going to on a Sunday sometimes with my Broadway friends because Mondays are dark on Broadway, so you usually get to have a fun night on a Sunday. They sure do. I love putting Carrie Underwood on that fucking jukebox because the majority of the music there is country music, obviously. Yeah. Truly, you go to the jukebox and try to play Charlie XCX, not there.
No, right.
No. But yeah, I love putting on, Cowboy Casanova, which used to be one of my favorite karaoke songs.
I like the Cara Diaguardi written song "Undo It" by Carrie Underwood. But it must be said right now, I'll add this to the Keep It. Jesus Take the Wheel has always sucked. It's a phrase that caught on. The song is bad.
Imagine you get into a car crash and they ask you, what were you doing? Well, I let Jesus take the wheel.
Right. And maybe that holds up in court. I don't even actually know how the system, like she's from Oklahoma or something, right? Maybe that holds up down there.
Didn't work for Karen Huger.
Ira, what is your Keep It this week?
Well, speaking of the housewives.
Yes.
Traitors is back.
It sure is. I saw all 3 episodes when I was hanging out in San Diego.
Yeah, and my Keep It does not go to, spoiler alert, Dorinda Medley being one of the first people offed on the series. Is very disappointing that we would not get to see, more of one of my favorite housewives on the show just being crazy and unhinged at the round table, especially because, one, people were imagining that she could be a traitor just because of how she was attacking people immediately. And I wanted to let them know, baby, that's just Dorinda. And she's not even drunk here.
No, this is her in her right mind, just like kind of scat singing, yelling at everybody.
No, my real keep it, though, is connected to her being killed. And it is the fact that I'm starting to think that Big Brother players are just bad at traitors.
It's interesting. Oh, you're talking about Danielle Reyes now.
I'm talking about Danielle Reyes, who is an icon to me in Big Brother, the best player to never win. And then last season, we had Dan, who was truly my favorite Big Brother player. But I think that the skills required to win Big Brother are not the skills that you need for the traitors.
And what do you mean? Because I do feel like among the reality shows, I at least intuitively connect these two in my head because it's about fooling people, it's about diplomacy, etc.
Well, so Dan played the game very under the radar.
We're talking about Dan Giesling, who's like the most vaunted player in Big Brother history, yes.
Yeah, Dan Giesling played the game under the radar. And in Traitors, people started suspecting that he was one because he wasn't throwing out options of who we thought a traitor could be. Weirdly, in this game, you really just sort of have to like say a name and like stick at it like a dog with a fucking bone. Otherwise, people think that you're a traitor. It's because there's always someone that's saying at the round table, well, who do you think is a traitor? And traitors usually fail when they don't have an option. They just sort of go, well, I'm waiting to hear what other people say. No, that's a mistake. And then Danielle isn't doing that, but the people she's killing, she's not smartly thinking about it because Dorinda, people thought that she was a traitor. So it did not make sense to kill her. You keep her around as a shield. And I think that Survivor players are sort of more equipped to keeping people around in the game as shields, which is why when Rob became a traitor and joined them, he cleaned that shit up. And, I saw that he was angry at having to get rid of Tony, but, he knows at least instinctively how to play the game a bit better.
I will say, though, I was a bit disappointed when we're talking about Boston Rob from Survivor, legendary Survivor player, came in and was named one of the traitors along with the three other traitors who include Bob the Drag Queen, Danielle Reyes, and then what's the other woman's name?
Carolyn Weiger from Survivor.
Yes, she 46. Was also named. I have to say, when the trio without Bob were the traitors, I thought that was pretty fabulous. I thought the three of them had like a potentially rad vibe going. And then Boston Rob comes in. He goes, I was so disappointed to see these three people I was working with. I was like, we were having a good time a second ago. And two, do you just mean it's a gay guy and two women? Is that what you mean?
Well, I think he meant it mostly in that Bob, everyone in the house already thinks he's a traitor. I think that Bob is the one who's going to get caught first. And I think that he meant that mostly because he did have to sort of out himself even more as a potential traitor by getting Tony out. Because if he hadn't gotten Tony out at that round table, Bob was probably going to go home.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he certainly was. He reacted very, very defensively, which if it works on occasion, I think that can sort of propel you through the game. But in this case, it just seemed like he was about to burst into tears for no reason.
Yeah, I will say that I think that Rob and Carolyn teaming up will kind of be iconic because she seems like the one who's best equipped to be a traitor. She's kooky.
Yeah, she's also like believably emotional and not over the top, Yeah.
Danielle, for instance, like the crying in the morning. Why are you doing all that, girl? Less theatrics. I will say that Tony, when he left, we've always talked about the rules of this game and sort of how it's scattershot, how you win or whatever. He said that in an interview when he left, I believe at Entertainment Weekly, that the game is pretty much let's guess who Alan picked as traitors. You know,
Right.
that's what the game is. And he wishes that they would have consequences if you get it wrong, because going in there, you don't care. You form an alliance and you just vote everybody off. There's no consequence whether they're a traitor or not. I wish they would be like, hey guys, you get it wrong, you're up for murder tonight. But if you get a traitor out, you're safe. And it gives you an incentive to try to actually really want to get a traitor out, because they never would have voted me out if that was the case, because they knew I was not the traitor. But they were just like, okay, this guy's deceptive. We can't trust him. Let's get him out, traitor or not.
Well, again, this points to the thing I am most fascinated about with this show, which is I think it's entertaining based on the personalities in it, but it is not a good game. And I feel like as the seasons go on, there will be changes and tweaks made to the game that will probably improve it. And I look forward to how they navigate that. Because, again, also, we're still in this universe where we're watching them do physical challenges that have no ramifications for the game. You know, still can, they added a little wrinkle recently, but they need more of things. They need more things like that.
Yeah, I will say the challenges this season have been very fun to watch, because they, you know, not just the adding of the shields, the thing of like who's deciding like if they're gonna not be up for murder, etc. I'm watching the challenges more this season, and also Traitors UK season 3 is fantastic.
No, I need like a VPN to watch that though, don't I?
You do.
What the fuck is that? Wasn't it? Didn't we strike a deal? Wasn't this going to be on Peacock?
Baby, just go to ExpressVPN. It's like $9 a month.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it was that easy. Yeah. I'll look at the old checkbook. We'll see what there's room for.
Also, to lastly say, speaking of games, I've been watching Pop Culture Jeopardy, and I really enjoy it.
Oh, I mean, I will say about this, I was skeptical about having 3 people on a team for Pop Culture Jeopardy, but really, the breadth of material, you need teammates for this. Like, I know I'm obviously a movies, TV, music guy. I do not know much about TikTok. I do not know much about sports as they pertain to pop culture. So, like, having a team of 3 people really makes a lot of sense for the show, and the teams are very impressive.
Yeah, I will also say that maybe you knew a lot more people on the original Jeopardy because you're immersed in that King's Gambit.
Yes.
Of Jeopardy players.
Trebekistan, yes.
Yes, but the people in this are more like pub trivia people, and I was shocked at how many people I knew.
Oh, yeah, no.
Playing Pop Culture Jeopardy.
I think also demographically it's our people, too. It's a lot of 30 to 45, so.
Yeah, and there's a lot more.
Oh, quite. I mean, there's a reason people online are calling it Gay Jeopardy. Yeah.
Keep It is brought to you by One of Them Days. All right, y'all, listen up. We got a movie that's about to light up your weekend. The new, hilarious, and outrageous R-rated comedy, One of Them Days, hits movie theaters Thursday. Trust me, One of Them Days is a comedy you do not want to miss. From the brilliant mind of producer Issa Rae and starring the dynamic duo of Keke Palmer and SZA. Yes, you heard me right. SZA on the big screen, so you can turn off Lana and go ahead and see her at the movies. It's a hilarious buddy comedy that'll have you laughing, cheering, and maybe even tearing up a little. Ride or die best friends and odd couple roommates, Drew, played by Keke Palmer, and Alyssa, played by SZA, discover Alyssa's boyfriend has blown their rent money. Now it's a race against the clock as the duo finds themselves in crazy situations one after another to avoid getting evicted, all while keeping their friendship intact. One of Them Days is the funniest, most outrageous comedy we've all been waiting for. It's serving up all the vibes, unfiltered, unapologetic, and absolutely unforgettable. Grab your friends, grab your snacks, and get ready to laugh. Early screenings have brought the house down with the entire audience laughing out loud, okay? Nobody's brought the house down since Queen Latifah and Steve Martin, so you know this must be good. There's scenes that you'll be talking about for days. One of Them Days, exclusively in movie theaters Thursday. Rated R. Get your tickets now. Keep It is brought to you by Lumen.
Did you know 80% of resolutions fail by February? You can beat the odds with Lumen and improve your health. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workouts, sleep, and even stress management.
All you have to do is breathe, just like Michelle Branch told you to.
No, I believe that was Anna Nalick. Moving on.
You breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll find out what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. And then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on your measurements.
You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game.
This is so much different than the thing the police make me breathe into every other week.
I have to say I agree. I also say this is valuable for me because I am somebody who, sorry, I'm about to start crying. My body doesn't want to gain a lot of weight. And so knowing what my metabolism is up to helps me improve when it comes to building muscle. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get so emotional.
Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. Because your metabolism is at the center of everything your body does, optimal metabolic health translates to a bunch of benefits, including easier weight management, improved energy levels, better fitness results, better sleep, etc. And Lumen also gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. It can also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause, Louis. So, there you go.
Slay.
And it can adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings.
So if you want to keep the weight off for good this year, go to lumen.me/keepit to get 20% off your Lumen.
That's LUMEN.me/keepit for 20% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. From his time as a boy bander in the UK group Take That to an incredible solo career marked by hits like Angels and She's the One, this week's guest has sealed his legacy as British pop royalty. His career is so storied, in fact, it inspired Better Man, Michael Gracey's new musical biopic with a simian twist. Here to discuss the film and his life that inspired it, please welcome, to keep it, Robbie Williams.
Preach. Thank you for that intro. And I must say I deserve it.
Well, I do have a quibble before we get into all of it.
Let's go.
I'm an American, and our big song of yours is Millennium, and it's nowhere to be found in the movie.
It really isn't, is it? It must have. Here's the thing, right? So people quite often in interviews ask me, hey, you must be bored or don't like one of your songs. What song is that? And then I say Millennium because that's true. And then they go, oh, and then they look at me almost perplexed and angry. But A, you asked the question, and B, if I'd have said a song that you'd agreed with me about and just nodded, how would that make me feel? Like, yeah, oh, you agree that one's crap, do you? Anyway, Millennium had no
I'm
place.
not perplexed, by the way. I'm like a Madonna fan, so I know that she never plays songs that we want to hear.
What does she not like?
She for the longest time, I think once the Frozen world tour started, she didn't play any of her earlier stuff at all.
And you know, she's completely wrong because as a fan, all of most of her stuff actually throughout her career is stellar, but especially the early stuff that she probably doesn't like because I love that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you were saying about Millennium.
Oh, yeah, Millennium. I was just saying I don't like it. That's why it's not in the movie.
Speaking of the movie, I really did enjoy this quite a bit. And I want to know, I guess, how you came to meet with Michael Gracey and come up with the idea of the film. I know that you said, many times that, you feel like a monkey when you perform. And so he sort of went with that idea. But how did this all come together?
First of all, can I put your quote on a poster? I really enjoyed this quite a bit. I think that's
yes.
solid. Yeah. So I met Michael through his lawyer. His lawyer is the dad of my wife's childhood best friend. That's how we met. Mm-hmm. And we became friends at a party. And then one day, Michael phoned me up and said, I need to come and ask a favor. And he came round to my house and we sat down and he said, look, I'm doing this film called The Greatest Showman. And instantly I thought he's going to ask me to be the lead in it because I am the greatest showman. And he played me songs and he was like, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm like, that's amazing. This is me. all of them. And I'm like, yes, yes, tick, 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 sign me up. Of course I'll do this. Then he showed me the storyboards and showed me the costumes. And I got more excited and more excited. And I was just like, cut all this, ask me the question, where do I sign? I'm in. And he said, and now here's the question. Here's the favor that I want you to do. And I'm like, anything. He said, will you get hold of Hugh Jackman and convince him to be the lead in the movie? Crestfallen. I think that should be my autobiography title, Crestfallen. Or Born to Crabs.
So you met that way, and then you came up with the idea for basically how was the back and forth on this film, I guess. You're telling him stories about your life.
I told him stories about my life for 20 hours over a matter of months. And then the back and forth stopped. And Michael Gracie, the genius director, went off and made this movie. I had no notes. I didn't even know I could have notes, to be honest with you. I'm such a really good English polite pupil. Whatever's good, thank you. I have whatever served. As it happens, you know, this film is touching people on such a profound level that I'm very lucky and smart in one way to have no notes and get out of its way and my way.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think for a lot of people when they make a biopic, especially people who are still alive, for them, there's always the concern that it's not going to be very truthful. You know, it's not going to show them completely as a three-dimensional character. Were there any stories that you were afraid to tell him? Were there any things that you saw in the film that sort of it was hard to rewatch, even with a monkey playing you?
Yeah, a lot of it was hard to rewatch because it's the greatest hits of my trauma and grief for the TikTok generation, you know, and that has an effect. That being said, I overshare. It's what I do professionally. It's also it's how I socialize. I'm scared of small talk. It's like being in a headlock. And so I don't want to talk about the weather. I don't want to talk about things that don't matter. I want to talk about things that really matter to you and matter to me. And that's my trauma and your trauma. And I want to bond with you. I don't want to have a surface relationship with anybody, including myself and the world. Mm-hmm. I just said something profound.
A little bit.
Yeah. I'm pleased with myself.
I was watching your Graham Norton appearance, and I came to the conclusion that, yes, you were a great storyteller. And I was wondering when you first noticed this ability about yourself, you know, because writing, it took you a while to realize that you loved your lyrics. But what about telling stories?
I still don't. Actually, it comes from being on chat shows and being so nervous and terrified that when it came to promoting albums, I realized that I'd be going on chat shows and stuff, that I actually once went and checked myself into a tropical disease hospital thinking I'd contracted something by recently being in Mexico and Sri Lanka. And what it was actually anxiety about having to talk about myself on TV. So I researched myself and figured out a plan of what I was going to say and how I was going to say it. And then it went so well, and people tell me or have spoken about me as a really good chat show guest that is a good raconteur. And it all comes from being terrified. But people have, I'm saying this like it's my knowledge. People have pointed this out to me, so I understand this to be true. And when people tell you a nice thing about yourself, it gives you the impetus to grow on that and expand on that. So thank you for the people that noticed.
Was it a thing that you really noticed from early being on talk shows, or was it something that you noticed also earlier in your life, you know, talking to people? I mean, because you say you don't like small talk. Was it something that came out of high school, being interacting with fans, etc.?
No. I know that how I present myself is unusual. And I know that my raison d'etre is to entertain with the meager talents that I have. And when I'm doing an interview, I want it to be memorable. When I'm doing an interview, I want to win. I'm also competitive. And I also realize that I'm in an entertainment industry where most people are vanilla and have no personality. So if they're not going to do it, I might as well. Plus, it also comes from a place of not being very good at the job that I've been given. You know, I'm all right, but I'm really good at showing off. I'm better at showing off than I am at melodies and lyrics and writing songs. But, you know, you can't quantify that. They don't give awards for showing off.
They
Or
do.
they?
If you'd gotten cast in Greatest Showman, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, speaking even of people who have very sort of interesting personalities who were in the film, I was actually shocked to see, you know, a lot of the stuff about Liam Gallagher in the film. And my question, I guess, was what was your relationship with him like at the time? And also, was Noel also involved and just didn't want to be in the film? Or were you actually closer with just Liam?
Liam and Noel are in that scene together.
Yes, but Liam, I feel like only talks the most, and you reference him the most.
Yeah, which is not my choice. You know, once again, I got out of
Okay.
the way and let Michael Gracie do his thing. But what was my relationship with him? I was in a Lily White pop band that were considered, you know, Lily White and clean. And I wasn't that. I wasn't the music that I was singing, and I wasn't who I was representing myself as, so it felt inauthentic. What felt authentic to me was people that were hedonistic and breaking the law and rallying against social norms and being unusual and provoking and being controversial for being controversial's sake. So I looked up to Oasis straight away and wished that I was in that band doing that. That was my relationship.
Did you ever consider when you were making music, and especially when you were going solo, post Take That, trying to make that type of music?
I did try unsuccessfully. You know, what happens is I open my mouth and my brain and my spirit and pop comes out. I can't help it. You know, it's like I'm a theatre musical kid who's cabaret and jazz hands. And, you know, as much as I wanted to write Karma Police by Radiohead, I wrote Karma Chameleon by Culture Club instead, which is also an incredible song. There's nothing wrong with that song. It's beautiful, but it's not what I set out to do.
Mm-hmm. And how, I guess, do you find a way to, I guess, reconcile that with yourself? Do you listen to a lot of that music still? Is there still some part of you that wishes that you could write something like that?
Nah, I'm over that. You know, the need and want to be cool is a young man's game and a young man's want and need. What I need to do now is to facilitate a life and a lifestyle for my family that none of the centuries of Williams before me ever had. And by all means necessary, I will do that. That becomes my MO. That becomes my raison d'etre. That becomes the most important thing in my life, is prolonging this thing, seeing how far I can take it. But it's not to be cool. And also, we live in a day and age now where cool doesn't exist, not in the same way that it did in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and definitely the 90s. You know, and thank God. Cool people are wankers.
Keep It is brought to you by Z-Biotics Pre-Alcohol.
Let's face it, after a night with drinks, I don't bounce back the next day like I used to. I have to make a choice. I can either have a great night or a great next day. That is, until I found pre-alcohol.
ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme that breaks this byproduct down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Did you hear me? Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow.
This feels like an adult episode of The Magic School Bus.
Yeah, Miss Frizzle being like, listen here, Ralphie. If you throw up on the curb outside the school one more fucking time.
I actually really do like ZBiotics. It's in my fridge right now. Currently, I am in the midst of dry January, but also some people are doing damp January, where they're having a light drink here and there.
Damp is simply a horrible word used in this case, and I'm sorry you brought it up.
But every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently plan on recording this podcast without worry. Look, I won't lie. I was a bit on the fence about pre-alcohol initially, but then while hanging out with some friends who love drinking this, I figured that I would give it a shot. And believe me, it's the real deal.
Go to zbiotics.com/keepit to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Keep It at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/keepit and use the code KEEPIT at checkout for 15% off. This podcast is sponsored by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms. Introducing Design Intelligence from Squarespace, combining 2 decades of industry-leading design expertise with cutting-edge AI technology to unlock your strongest creative potential. Design Intelligence empowers anyone to build a beautiful, more personalized website tailored to their unique needs and craft a bespoke digital identity to use across one's entire online presence.
Oh, you must be talking about IraMadison.com, which is powered by Squarespace.
I wasn't. Oh, God. Now you've brought it up. It's a curse.
Squarespace Payments is also the easiest way to manage your payments in one place with Squarespace. Onboarding is fast and it's simple. You can get started in just a few clicks and start receiving payments right away. Plus, give your customers more ways to pay with popular payment methods like Klarna, ACH Direct Debit, Apple Pay, Afterpay, and ClearPay. Connect major social and multimedia accounts to your website in a few clicks as icons, direct links, or embedded feeds. Build visitor trust while updating content only where you need it, extending your brand's footprint. Sellers can also sync their product catalog directly with Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Google to reach more customers and reduce the steps for a purchase.
Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/keepit to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/keepit.
In the film, there's a moment where, and I'm sure this is Michael Gracie, coming up with an arc for you, but it talks a bit about making music post Take That. And one of the interesting things that, he has your character say is, you were focusing sort of on revenge in a way of proving yourself to Gary, to the band members, to people who doubted you, etc. I'm interested in what your music sort of what your method of making music was post that, after you reconciled with Gary, after you dealt with your sobriety. What was it like that compelled you to make music then?
It was completely about survival. And, everything that I do and everything that I have done, every performance that I give and every interview that I do it like my life depends on it, because it does. And my life has revolved around self-sabotage and chaos and self-hatred and self-loathing and being loathed by great swathes of the general public. And, they are and have been more of a fuel than they will ever know. I'd say 98% of the stuff that I have and I've achieved because I've read and heard those words. And I would like to thank them personally for that fuel. But also, I haven't liked myself and I haven't believed that I can do any of this. So everything that I do is built on anxiety and is built on a fractured sense of self and a complicated inner life.
Mm-hmm. I think that was actually one of the things that really made the biopic beautiful to me. It entered your mind in a way that was very relatable for myself as a writer. And also a lot of the stuff with your father in that was very relatable as well. So it did actually touch me quite a bit.
Thank you.
Putting that on.
Yeah, it's unusual. How old are you?
38.
Okay. So you're still in the cusp of coming from the generation before us that were literally from another world. Emotionally and physically, the generation gone before us and the generation before them may have been from the dark ages when it comes to do with anything to do with the mind and the psyche and the wants and the needs of emotional and sensitive people. So it's very, very interesting to me to now live in a time where at the front of social discourse is mental health and mental illness. And this film speaks to that, where we were, and who we are now. And what are we going to do about it?
Yeah. And I don't know, it's also watching, a film like this and thinking about, drug use and musicians and how now there's, so many artists who are either sober and very open about it, or they are, they speak about using, ketamine or cocaine or other things, casually in ways that don't seem very, detrimental. They're not hiding it. It's not some sort of rock star persona. They're just sort of doing it to have fun.
Do they? I mean, what, like, you mean actively doing stuff?
Yeah.
Is that what you think?
I live in New York.
Okay, so I'm not in of that world, and I'm not au fait when it comes to new artists, how they present themselves, and what they talk about. But I also think that it's not unusual. People say, why is it the musicians and why is it the da-da-da? Well, they're all, and entertainers, they're all sensitive people seeking validation from the outside world because of the complicated lives that they had when they were growing up. So for me, when I did cocaine, because I've got ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, and I have social anxiety, when I did cocaine, it's street Adderall. No wonder I loved it. It was the first time that I could concentrate and converse with people, So there is a sensitivity to the people that are in my line of work that leads it to self-medication. And you're looking to heal yourself by confessing yourself to the world and wanting to be seen and be heard on such a level that will obviously never fill the hole. Therefore, medicating yourself on drink and drugs.
I have one last thing for you before you go. I'm a fan of your album, Sing When You're Winning. And I had a question about how the cover of the Frank and Nancy Sinatra song, Something Stupid, came along with Nicole Kidman.
Well, first of all, I love that song. Second of all, Nicole Kidman thankfully said yes when I asked her. And it was a wonderful moment, a wonderful moment that somebody so statuesque and beautiful and important in the entertainment industry felt the need and want to reciprocate my request with a yes. I'm very grateful. She's a lovely person and a great moment in my career.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me. Continued success. You look after yourself.
Thank you. And this might be like a random comment too, but your wife, I really loved her in Days of Our Lives. I watched that show with my grandmother, and I still watch it to this day. I have friends on it. So
Let me tell you this, right, very quickly. She auditioned as an Italian person for 2 shows, right? So
Yeah.
she speaks Italian. She went in as an Italian, got the job as an Italian, spoke to the makeup people, the producers, the directors as an Italian. Everybody thought she was an Italian. Then they decided to keep her on the show and elongate her part. And by that time, she was balls deep into a huge lie that she couldn't go back on. 3 months into being on the show, she had to come out as an American from Coldwater Canyon. It was a proper Tootsie style story.